Hi, I'm Stephanie, and I have been attacked by my Swatch Goblin. In case you can't tell by the chaotic color story on my arms, I am currently trying to convince myself not to buy the new Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Nature palette. I swore I wasn't going to impulse buy any more palettes because I haven't counted lately, but if I did, I'm sure I'd have at least, I don't know, like 40 eyeshadow palettes. That's 40. And my problem isn't in owning palettes, it's in finding the time to wear them because I only have one face and 365 days a year. My makeup monster, you know, that little gremlin voice that every beauty lover seems to have in their brain, is screaming at me that I need this. And the wildest part is I've been so good this holiday season. I feel like I haven't really been super tempted by everything, despite the fact that there are some pretty releases out there. But this has me in a chokehold. So instead of buying it right this second, I am going to fight back with my swatchy arms, and I am going to have dupes and a custom palette, and then I am going to take your advice because I had a feeling I was going to need an emergency intervention. So I asked for help on my community tab, and my community always comes through for me when I need help avoiding temptation for a makeup item that I really don't need. So we will read some of those nuggets of wisdom together too. So feel free to use the timestamps to find whatever's most relevant for you. And now let's try to beat this palette with Sanity. But first, let me make some space for swatches on my arms.
A few moments later.
All right, my arms are reset, but my brain is not. Because here's the thing. I was feeling kind of smug up until this point about the holiday releases. I mean, there were several out there that were really pretty, but for the most part, they were just passing blips on my radar. Nothing was really shaking me up. Of course, then Mario comes and drops this palette, which looks like it was custom designed to break my willpower. And if you see me glancing off in this direction, that's just because I'm looking at it with you. And isn't it earthy? Cohesive, wearable, like the world's most polite siren song. Every shade looks like it belongs. There's not one out of place color that gives me an excuse to say no. And that's also a problem because my makeup monster doesn't need every single shade to fit. She just needs one or two that she can latch onto. And in this palette, she definitely found them. So let's take a closer look. This olivey, taupey, golden desaturated green, that is pulling my heartstrings. And according to my comment section, it's pulling more than just mine. And then that bronzy burgundy, they are the reason that I have spent the past couple of days muttering to myself like a crazy lady. So today we're going to test whether or not these shades are truly special or if my makeup monster just needs a timeout. And if I'm being honest here, I basically went through my entire collection last night. Just some of the palettes are here. It's embarrassing how many I opened to try to find some dupes. And yes, I found them. Every single shade in here has a cousin or two or 10 within my collection. But here's the problem. To get the best dupes, to match the palette the best, I had to crack open a whole lot of palettes. And there were a couple of shades, especially that burgundy one that's caught my eye, that I really had to mix and match to get. I had to like combine several different shades from several different palettes to get what looks like is the burgundy in the Makeup by Mario palette. So my workspace now looks like a toddler had a birthday party in a Sephora. So yes, the dupes exist, but I'm not sure I want to go through this whole circus every time I get ready in the morning. So today, I want to make a custom palette with my singles, a little portable version that can sit on my vanity or that I can put into a makeup bag, because the appeal of this palette is that everything is in one place. So I want to see if I can build that myself. And I even have this little empty white palette that kind of is a little bit reminiscent of the Makeup by Mario packaging. But instead of just going for the closest dupes, I think I'm going to aim for my own version of the Ethereal Eyes Nature palette, my cover version of Mario's song, if you will. I'm a musician, and sometimes I cover other people's songs, and this feels kind of the same. I'm going to take the original, but then add my own twist. So let's get started, and we'll begin with the shade EE1 Satin Cream. They do call this a satin cream shadow, but in the promo footage, it looks suspiciously like a matte with sparkles. And if you have followed me for a while, you already know I detest mattes with sparkles. I feel like they always look kind of patchy. I get fallout all over my face from the sparkles throughout the day. And with Mario's already very powdery formula, I feel like it's kind of a disaster waiting to happen actually. But since this is my version of the palette, I get to completely veto any matte shades with sparkles. And instead, I'm going to choose my own. And I was actually using this palette yesterday, so I have just the shade in mind. This is the VISEART Cashmerie palette, and I want to take this shade from it. It is a warm cream color, and I feel like this one is actually pretty true to the shade in Mario's palette because it's yellow based as opposed to pink based, but it's very light. And we'll begin some swatches, I think, too. VISEART mattes don't always swatch well, but they work really well on the eye. Okay, so we've got the first shade, and I already like it better than what's in the Ethereal Eyes palette. So far, this is going really well. I hope it continues to do so. The next shade is EEN2, which is described as a shimmering peach champagne. Now, when I look between the palette and the arm swatches, I'm trying to figure out exactly how opaque the shadow is. And I feel like on the darkest model, I can see some of the skin shining through. So I'm wondering if it's not completely opaque. I kind of think it would be nice to have a more transparent version of that. I think that might be fun. Yes, I think we're gonna do that. So I have another shade in mind from the I Need a Nude palette. I don't know what it's called, but I know where it is. This one, it is called Sheen. I think that's gonna be a very nice addition to the palette. So I'm gonna take this little orange stick here, and I am gonna just pop the shade out of the palette. That's what I really like about these Natasha Denona palettes, that you can use them as singles. So here we have the shade Sheen, and we'll do another swatch of that. Yeah, I think this is exactly what I wanted. Shade EEN3 is described as a shimmering taupe, and that looks kind of almost golden a little bit, at least in the reflect. It looks like it has a kind of cool undertone in the base, but then a golden reflect. I'm wondering, let's see, I'm swatching Delilah right now from the I Need a Nude palette, and I feel like that's actually a pretty good match. This is going much faster than I anticipated. Although I think it helps that I did so much swatching yesterday, to be honest, because I did go a little nuts, and I've been going nuts today too. Shade EEN4 is described as a matte warm beige, and if it's warm, then I have a feeling I'll probably be able to find something in my Natasha Denona I Need a Warm palette. And what do we have here? We have this shade here, Mellow, and that feels like a matte warm beige. So let me take that out and give you a closer look, and then we'll swatch that as well. I'm wondering if this is looking a little too peachy. I feel like the one in the Makeup by Mario palette looks a little bit more sandy. Let's see if we can do better. Maybe we can do better. Okay, I'm breaking out the big guns here. This is my random palette of colorful singles, and I think I have actually a good beige in here, which is funny because it's my colorful singles, but let's try this one. I believe this is a KVD, yes, KVD IO. Okay, that is what we are looking for. So we're gonna choose this shadow. It's almost like a pale yellow. I have to remove this last swatch now. So that's the equivalent of shade EEN for the matte warm beige. All right, next up is the matte Dusty Rose. Okay, I know that there are two pinks in the Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. And one of them, this one here, Wit, is really bright, and this one is more dusty. So I think this is probably the one we're gonna go with. Let me swatch that really quick. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. This one is called Vague, and I have a vague feeling it will work very beautifully in this palette. So here's what we've got so far. When it comes to the shimmering rose gold color, I actually have the perfect single, but it's in a little pot like this, so I don't think I want to take it and use it for this. But this is the Charlotte Tilbury Pop Shot in rose gold, and I just thought I'd share it with you because I think this would actually be the perfect addition to the palette if it wasn't in its own very nice little bejeweled package here. but I want to stick to shadows that I can put in here. So instead, I am going to dive into the Natasha Denona Lila palette, which was in my makeup bag last month. So I know this one pretty well. And I actually think that this shade here, what is it called? Magnolia. This shade here, I think is actually, it looks very gold when it's next to the purples, but there's like a rosiness to it. So I think we're gonna try that one. First, let me swatch it just to see. Yeah, it's really funny. It looks very yellow when it's next to all the purples, but there's kind of like a rosy copperiness to it. And I think this is actually gonna make a really nice rose gold. It's not as desaturated as that Charlotte Tilbury was, but you know what? It's fine. Because when it's on the eye, I'm not sure that these subtle differences that I'm so keen on really matter all that much. So now we're at the first shade that's really driving my makeup monster absolutely nuts, and that is that olive goldeny green. And the very first palette that I thought of was my Natasha Denona Yucca palette. And it has this green in here, but it also has this green, and I am gonna cheat because this is my palette. It's my cover version, and I really want to try green and I want to play with it. So I'm going to put 2 in. And the reasoning behind that is because I have deep set hooded eyes that are often in shadow. And so when I use a deeper color all over the lid, it can kind of push my eyes even further back and it makes me look a little bit like a skeleton. So what I want to do is I want to use both and see how much I actually use both of them, and if I end up tending towards this one, which I think is closer to the Makeup by Mario palette, or if I end up reaching for the lighter one more often, just to kind of learn more about my own makeup preferences out in the wild. The lighter shade is called Como Rebi, and the darker green is called Macchia. I've been a little bit lax on the swatches, so it's time to catch up. The next shade is described as a matte camel brown. And so for this brown, I am gonna actually go into an older palette. This is the Glam palette from Natasha Denona. And I'm gonna be taking this blend shade because I feel like it has the right depth and it's pretty neutral. It does lean a little bit warm, but it's like just enough warmth to have it blend nicely into my slightly warm leaning neutral undertone. And I think it's gonna make a great transition shade. All right, when it comes to matte neutral medium browns, I have so many of them. I could probably just randomly put my hand on a palette and get a warm neutral medium brown. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna take the first palette that's in my hand, which is the Natasha Denona I Need a Warm, and smack dab in the middle is a neutral medium brown. And so I'm gonna take that. That's Vim. There are some shades in every palette like that I have, I don't know, I must have like 40 times over. Shade EEN10 is described as a shimmering golden bronze. And when I look at it in the promo picture of the palette, it does look like it leans golden, but when I look at it in the swatches on the models, it looks more neutral. And so I think actually I'm gonna go with Ella from the I Need a Nude palette here. Okay, now we come to the most challenging shade, for me at least in the palette. That is the metallic bronze burgundy shade. This is the one that has been driving me crazy because I searched every palette I own. Tom Ford, Pat McGrath, VISEART, YSL, all of them, all of my random singles, my Lethal Cosmetics stuff, I mean everywhere. And I have burgundies, and normally I'm not really into burgundy, but it's because it's like too much, and this is really muted, which is why I like it so much. So basically, I've been taking my burgundies and purples and kind of trying to mute them down with other shades because I feel like that's what this one is. It's like the muted version of burgundy that I've searched for my whole life. And I found that the closest mix I got was when let's see, I have it right here. I used the Tom Ford Honeymoon palette and I basically mixed these 3 shades. And I found that that gave me a really good burgundy. So if I was just trying to look for perfect dupes, I would have to take 3 shadows from this palette to create that. And that was the best I got in my collection. But I don't want to do that. I want to stick to singles that I can put in here. And I was beginning to think, because I could mix and match, like when I was using my Lethal Cosmetics palette, there were 3 shadows that I was mixing together and I was able to get a pretty good combination. And I was just thinking to myself, do I really want to always have to mix 3 shadows to get a burgundy? And then I thought, do I really need it to be sparkly? I mean, I would like it to be, but once again, when I think of my eye shape, I tend to put dark colors like that burgundy only on the outer corner. And if I'm using it only on the outer corner or as a liner, I could just use a matte burgundy, which I do have because I have the Natasha Denona Lila palette. And so there's a shade in here, what is it called? Amara. And I think that this is actually a great shade for that because it's burgundy, but there's something brown to it. So it's not quite the bronze burgundy dream that I've been searching for, but I think it's going to get the job done. Although, you know, I am making my own palette. I can break the rules. I'm going to put in a second kind of burgundy-ish shade in here, and it's going to be this. I think it's from an ABH palette. Yes. ABH Norvina, this is rose gold, but this to me fits more maybe towards the burgundy. Let's see, I'm gonna swatch it first and just kind of see how it looks. Yeah, I think that can go pretty well in there. So I'm gonna put that one in there too. And the last shadow I need to find is a dark, deep brown. How do they describe it? A matte mahogany brown. I have so many deep browns like this that I could literally, once again, just throw something at a palette and probably hit a dark brown. But I think I want to go into the I Need a Warm palette because I do like it when there's a little bit of warmth in my dark browns because I feel like they can kind of, I don't know, make me look a little bit sickly if they're too cool. So I'm going to go in with Pep from the I Need a Warm palette. That will be my deepest, darkest shade. This palette looks so good. I think I want to take it on a test run. And I'll start with the neutral camel brown for the crease because this one's basically the glue for the rest of the look. And then we'll darken the outer corner with some Pep. And once the eye is contoured, it's time to add some shine to the lid. So I think I'll use the Peach Champagne Shimmer. Now for the star of the show, my olive green remix. Okay, she is really pretty. The makeup monster is nodding in approval. And let's try Amara, my matte burgundy swap as a liner. So yeah, this palette isn't just theoretical, it works, which means I can officially stop pretending that the nature palette is necessary. I have to say, this is deeply satisfying. My cover version of the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Nature palette is cohesive, it's portable, and it is tailored to my eye shape and my preferences. So if Mario's version was the original, I think I did a pretty good job with the remix. But I also know myself, and I know that my makeup monster sometimes comes back to haunt me at the oddest times, like 3 in the morning when I can't sleep, and tries to convince me that I need things that I definitely don't. Because, I mean, she'd have to be crazy to think that I need a new palette when I have this. It is so exciting. So I thought that I might need some help taming my makeup monster, and I asked my community for help. And as always, you delivered. So I thought I would read some of those comments today because I know that if I've been struggling with this palette, then other people must be too. So let's take a look at some of them. I won't get to all of them today, but so many people wrote such helpful comments. So let's read them. One commenter wrote, I don't have anything by Makeup by Mario because of the Kardashian connection. If you feel a similar distaste, tap into that. I think that's good advice. If you already have a distaste for something, why not use it to your advantage? Unfortunately, I don't really know enough about the Kardashians to like or dislike them, so I'm pretty ambivalent. So it doesn't work for me in this particular case, but I do think it's good advice. This next commenter wrote several great tips, so let's go through them one by one. First was cover the beige with the hint of green in the palette and then see if that helps. So basically, cover the 2 shades that are really calling my name and see if I still want it. In my case, that's that olive green and the burgundy bronze. And when I cover them up, it suddenly looks less exciting, doesn't it? In fact, I own this palette pretty much. This is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Original palette, and it looks remarkably similar. So I guess that means the real selling point of this palette for me is really just 2 shades. And at 69 US dollars, what is it, 110 Canadian, that's a pretty high price for just 2 shades, even if they do come with some useful companion shades and convenient packaging. Don't think it's worth it. But the second point is, see if the palette has something that annoys you. For example, they don't like it when they see shades that seem to look exactly the same. I'm not crazy about that either. And when I look at this palette, I have to say, I can see different undertones and depths to every shadow, so nothing is too similar there. But let's take a look at the arm swatches, because sometimes things can look different in the palette, but they look the same on the eye. And what I'm seeing here is a similarity between the matte neutral medium brown and the dusty matte rose shadow. They do have different depths and different undertones, even in the swatches, but I bet if I were to use that matte neutral brown shade with a light hand on the eye, it would look pretty much identical to that matte rose shade on me anyway. That's not a deal breaker, but we're trying to practice some critical thinking here, so I'll take it. When I watch the promo video, though, something very annoying pops out at me, and that's that satin cream shadow at the top right of the palette, because it does not look like a satin to me. It looks like a matte with sparkles in it, and I hate mattes with sparkles in them. And I honestly don't understand why these formulas exist. Maybe someone can explain them to me, because I find that that type of finish always ends up looking kind of uneven, and the sparkles don't ever have enough to actually stay put in the shadows. So they end up falling on my cheeks throughout the day. And with Makeup by Mario's already very powdery ethereal eyes formula, wouldn't that shade just be a complete disaster? So yay, I found something that really annoys me about the palette. Their third point was, let yourself be excited about the release, but imagine that it happens in 2 days. Time is always a friend in cases like these. So I think that means I should wait it out. And I already have. I have to admit, the second I saw the Ethereal Eyes palette, I did just put it in my cart, but I didn't buy it. My trick is I put things in the cart as if I'm going to buy them, and then I abandon them there. I'm a horrible cart mother. I'm abandoning my little cart babies. But it works well because it means I don't spend money, and they're definitely right. Time is my friend, because not only am I thinking more critically about it, but I put together a whole beautiful palette that really shows me that I don't need it, because look how pretty this is. And their last point was, make yourself tea or coffee and consider the purchase. Will it lead to guilt? How will it fit into your collection? If you say you love the formula, how often do you use it currently? That is a very good question. And if it all fits, maybe this palette is for you. I think that's good to remember, because I am not anti-shopping. One of the reasons I don't want to buy this is just because I already have so much. I don't necessarily think that the new Makeup by Mario palette would be the biggest disaster in the world if I bought it, because I do think I would get use out of it. I just know that I don't need it. And so I'm trying not to buy it. But this is a good point. I don't think that it's bad to go shopping. I don't think it's bad to buy one palette from all the holiday releases if it's in the budget. I just think there are better ways that I could be spending my money this season. This person left several wisdom nuggets. They said, wait for the reviews. As beautiful as this palette is, and yes, this color story draws me in too, I know that the Ethereal Eyes palettes do not get the best reviews. And it is true. This formula is pretty polarizing. I have the original, and I do have to say the mattes are very powdery, and I do have to be careful with how I apply the shinier shades, because if I don't apply them in the right way, I can get some fallout. But I do have to say, as much as the mattes are powdery, they are extremely lightweight, and they kind of cling to the skin in this really pleasant way, putting this really elegant film of color over the skin. It really is almost like a veil. It's ethereal. So I think this is an aptly named palette series. And the sparkles are also ethereal. So I have to say I really enjoy the look that I get with this. So even though the formula isn't the most fun to work with, I really do like the results I get with it. They went on to say, I have a very curated collection, and when I want to scratch my green itch, I pull out my Victoria Beckham olive khaki eye pencil. I'm very jealous. I've been wanting to try exactly that color and Victoria Beckham Beauty in general for a long time. But they also pull out their Charlotte Tilbury Golden Goddess Quad. It's old, but it gives me an understated golden bronze green tone that my older hooded eyes enjoy. Using what you have, that is usually the right answer for me anyway. And then their last little tidbit really got me because they said you would be breaking your no limited editions rule. And that is true. If you saw my recent new makeup video, I mentioned that I typically don't buy limited releases because they just stress me out. And this is true. This is one of those times it's stressing me out. Look, I'm making a whole extra video about it because it's stressing me out so much. So it's true. I do feel better now that I've seen that I can make this myself and I can enjoy it and be happy with it. I have to say I'm a lot calmer. And I think the no limited editions rule is really good, even though I've been suffering with it this past week. This person said, I have found all the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes palettes to be beautiful until I get them. The mattes are super powdery, the glittery top coat shades are just like the Urban Decay ones, and I don't like uber shimmer on my wrinkly eyelids like those. Plus, someone once said not to buy something that makes you use what you have less. I think that person might have been me. That is something I often say, and I'm really, really glad that you are throwing my words right back in my face because sometimes I also need to hear them. I call myself the style stumbler for a reason because I'm not a guru. I'm right on this journey alongside you. Someone wrote, I decluttered my first Makeup by Mario palette, gave it to my mom because I was so uninspired by it. But I bought the e.l.f. dupe and I am so happy with it. So if you wait long enough, a much more cost-effective e.l.f. dupe might become available. But I ain't gonna lie, I am so tempted by this latest drop. I feel you. But I have to say, I think the most cost-effective one is my cover version. Cost-effective remixes. Someone else wrote, oh, I was tempted as well, but my friend who works at Sephora swatched it and told me it's beautiful, but the shimmer formula tends to have fallout if you don't use glitter glue and such. And I'm not about to do extra work for my shadows. They need to work for me. That makes perfect sense. And I can really understand. I do not think that these palettes are for everyone. Even if you really enjoy the color story, if you're not going to enjoy powdery mattes, if you're not going to enjoy potential fallout from the shimmer shadows, you need to avoid it because you're going to end up not liking it. Even if you like the colors, you won't want to put up with using it. Someone else wrote, it's tempting me. I find green the hardest to resist and adore his formulas. I'm waiting for reviews and the Sephora sale, but will most likely get it. I think it will be my only holiday eyeshadow purchase. Sorry, I can't find anything bad to say about it. But you know what? I think that's still really thoughtful. Just because you're not going to anti-haul something doesn't mean it's bad. We're allowed to want what we want. And if this is your only holiday eyeshadow purchase, I don't think that's bad. It's a beautiful palette. And so if you end up getting it, I really hope you enjoy it. This person wrote, if it helps, try to imagine that you've bought it and how you'll be feeling about it. Probably at least slightly guilty, and even more so if you don't actually like it as much as you're thinking. We always tend to have a fantasy image of something once it gets stuck in our minds that isn't necessarily accurate. And more often than not, it is not accurate. And at some point in the future, you're going to have to declutter an expired eyeshadow palette that you almost certainly won't have used up because you do have other eyeshadows you like and only 2 eyelids, and you'll have to go through the effort of throwing it out and will probably feel even more guilty about the waste. Remember, very expensive dirt. Expensive for you. It probably cost them only a couple of bucks to make. That one has so many gems of wisdom in there. Imagining how it's actually going to be. The last time I bought a palette for these reasons, when I was so on fire for a certain color, did it work out for me? I'm trying to think, what was the last palette that I bought for that reason? It's probably because I haven't been buying all that much lately, which I guess is a good thing. But it's true. We only have 2 eyelids. We only have so many days out of the year that we actually wear makeup. And is it realistic for me to keep buying eyeshadow palettes? No. It really isn't. And that's why I've just been trying to buy less. And this commenter wrote, I'm having trouble de-influencing myself. I have his other 2 Ethereal Eyes palettes and the completionist in me is struggling. I'm telling myself that if it's available when the sale starts, then it was meant to be. But knowing me, if it's out of stock, I'd probably look for it on Mercari, which would cost even more. And to top it off, Makeup by Mario released a new brush set at the same time. I'm really having to dig deep here to keep my wallet closed. Godspeed to all of us. Godspeed indeed. There's so much in here I relate to. The completionist thing, I even made a whole video about it. So I'll link that here and in the show notes if you want to check it out. But also the whole thing about looking for it on Mercari, saying, oh, well, if it's not available during the sale, then it just wasn't meant to be, and then going and searching for it anyway. I have been there. But with the brush set, the one thing I can say is it limited edition? I'm not sure. I haven't looked into the brush set yet. But if it's not, maybe what you can say is if you are going to get something, if you can't resist, then maybe just get the palette because the brushes will be available later. Maybe that'll help spread out the financial burden a little bit, spread out the overwhelm of too many new things at once. It's always so hard with these things. The holidays on all these sales makes it really hard to say no, but there will always be another sale. So if those brushes aren't limited edition, maybe you'll be able to wait. And here we have someone who's in a similar situation to me. I know I'm supposed to talk you out of it, but I'm having a hard time talking myself out of this one. I haven't bought any makeup thanks to you this year. Congratulations! But this palette, knowing that it is limited edition and knowing that his palettes sell out, I am struggling to hold off for a sale myself. I totally get it. That's why I don't like limited editions. And that's why normally this rule is so easy for me because I know the kind of spiral that it sends me into. But this one, I don't know. It's like they know putting a green in a palette will just get so many of us. And I really like this person's suggestion too. Have you done a color season test? There might be a reason why you don't yet have certain shades simply because they don't look the best on you. I am a light spring. The first palette was perfect for me, so no need to get another that is beautiful but not quite right on me. I certainly love the look of the palette and I know it will be great for someone, just not for me. By the way, I feel like you might be a soft summer or autumn. The burgundy and gold would likely be too dark and saturated on you. That is such a good point. I haven't done a color season test and I'm assuming that I'm warm because I have warm undertones, but I've seen like some of the color season tests online and I'm really bad at guessing what the people are, so I'm probably horrible at guessing what I am. I tend to wear, I think, autumnish colors in general. I wear a lot of like olive greens and things just because that's what I like, olive greens and mustard yellows, but I'm not sure that they're the best colors for me. They're just what I like. And the colors that I like in here olive green, and the burgundy, I feel like because it's got brown in it, it would work for me. But maybe you're right. Maybe it is too dark because I don't have a lot of high contrast. So that is a good point. And maybe I should get a color analysis done at some point. I got a kick out of this one. Chalky dusty mattes for that price? Hell no. I think it's so funny how some of us are like, it's light and powdery, and some of us are like chalky and dusty. And we're both right. I can see why so many people would not like this formula. And this one is so easy to dupe. You know it is. Spend time going through your collection and duping it, even if you have to mix a couple of shadows together to get a specific shade. I have no interest in this one. I am so happy for you. I so wish I had no interest in this one, but I took your advice and voila. And we'll end on this. It's just new and shiny. I bet you already have all those shades. Looks like one burgundy? Weak. We've already seen all those shades. Shop your stash. With a wink. And yes, all I can say is everybody who told me to shop my stash, you are geniuses because it worked. This makes me so happy. So have I talked myself out of this for good now? I think I did. I proved that I don't need it. I proved that I already own it several times over, and I even proved that I can make a custom palette that is even better for me than the original. And if there was even a shadow of doubt left in my mind after all of that, then you helped me to get rid of it with your lovely comments. So thank you so much for your help. I still think this is beautiful, but at the end of the day, it really is just dirt pressed into tiny little pans. But I would love to know, are you thinking of getting it? Because just because this isn't the palette for me doesn't mean that it might not be a great match for you. If you've been eyeing it because you think it will genuinely add value to your collection, I'm not here to stop you. In fact, I'll even pop a link in the show notes. If you decide to get it, using that link supports the channel at no additional cost to you. But if you decide not to get it, congratulations! We've both beat our makeup monsters in this battle. Welcome to the club. If you're navigating your own holiday temptations, whether it's this palette or something entirely different, leave it in the comments. We can support each other because I have a feeling we're all better at this when we're not doing it alone. And if this video helped you feel a little less alone in your cravings, remember to like, subscribe, and check out this video here. Thanks for hanging out, and to all of my patrons and channel members, including my Adagio angels, for making content like this possible. I hope we can all remember that even stumbling can be a form of moving forward. So let's stumble in style.